Welcome to episode 2 of the Fight Science Made Simple podcast. I'm your host, Coach Adam Snyder. If you're new here, I am a lifelong martial artist, active MMA fighter, and performance and recovery specialist. I have dedicated my life to the martial arts and helping fighters like you train harder, recover faster, and stay on the mat for life. In today's episode, we are talking about nutrition. More specifically, pre-training nutrition. What you eat before training is one of the most important decisions that you can make to have an immediate impact on your on-mat performance. If you eat too much or you eat the wrong things, then you're going to feel sluggish and slow and have a lot of stomach discomfort. On the other hand, if you don't eat anything or you don't eat enough, or again, you eat the wrong things, you're not going to have any energy. You're going to gas out, you're going to feel lightheaded, and your performance is going to feel flat. So, in today's episode, we are going to cover everything that you need to know about pre training nutrition. At the Fight Science Collective, we have a very specific protocol for this. It's called the 4-2-1 rule. So I'm going to break down the 4-2-1 rule for you. I'm going to show you specific strategies, specific foods that you can eat, and then some action steps that you can take today if you're training or sparring or have a workout to see some immediate improvements to your game. So without further ado, let's jump in. So pre-training nutrition, like we said, very important concept, very important thing to grasp as a fighter. Whether you're competing or not, what you eat before your training is really important. And what we use at the Fight Science Collective to help our clients perform better and recover faster is what we call the 4-2-1 rule. The 4-2-1 rule is pretty simple. 4 hours before training, you want to have a full meal. This is going to be a normal size, big meal. We like to reference what we call the performance plate when you're creating your 4-hour pre-training meal. So if you have a plate, half of that plate, you want to be carbohydrates, a quarter of that plate, you want to be protein, and another quarter of that plate, you want to be vegetables. Now, if you have specific macronutrient breakdowns for each meal throughout the day, for each day, then you're going to want to work this performance plate concept around your macronutrient numbers. That's what we do for our clients, especially our highest level guys. We give them very specific meal plans and we tell them how much protein, carbs, fats to eat at each meal. And we cycle their carbs for high, low, and medium intensity days. If you have a high level detailed plan like that, then you want to fit the performance plate framework around that. If you don't, then A, you should probably get one if you're serious. And B, if you're not as serious, maybe you're a hobbyist or tracking doesn't really do it for you, then this performance plate concept on its own can be helpful. For your carbs, you can do sweet potatoes, you could do pasta, you could do quinoa, you could do rice, you could do brown rice, you can sprinkle some fruits in there, oats. You want to get good, healthy, clean carbohydrates in there. For your proteins, we want fish, chicken, steak, eggs, tofu. We want to get some lean protein sources in there. If you can account or a lot for higher calories in a day, then you can have some fattier protein sources in there. But if you're cutting or need to lose some weight, then your leaner proteins are going to be the way to go. On the veggie side of things, we like to eat the rainbow of vegetables, so mix in all different colors of veggies. And then your fats are going to get worked in there either in what you're cooking your food in or the fat in your meat. So that's the first part of the 4-2-1 rule. 4 hours before you train, you want to eat a full meal. 2 hours before you train, you want to eat a high carb snack. So now we're getting a little bit closer to training. 4 hours before training, we can have a big meal and there's enough time where the food's going to digest. So you're not going to feel sluggish or you're not going to get any kind of stomach discomfort in training. 2 hours before training, we still have enough time to digest, but we can't eat as much as in our meal. And so what I tell our clients to do is 2 hours before training, have a snack that's high in carbs and has some protein in it. So something like Greek yogurt with fruit and granola and honey can be an awesome option. A peanut butter and jelly can be a great option. Making a smoothie with a lot of fruit and maybe some protein powder and some honey can also be an amazing option. You want to make sure that you're giving your body the fuel that it needs. So carbs, if you're training really intense, carbs is your body's number one preferred fuel source. Number one preferred fuel source. That's a mouthful to say. So your body wants carbs, and then the protein is going to help with recovery, help with muscle protection and preservation, and it's also going to curb hunger. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient, which means it's the most filling. So if you eat a lot of protein, you're not going to feel as hungry. So we want a lot of protein in there. We want to avoid fats and vegetables and fiber at our 2-hour pre-training snack because you're not going to have enough time to digest those things. So if you eat foods that are high in fat, high in fiber, then you're just not going to have the time to digest. It's going to sit in your stomach and you're going to feel that stomach discomfort. So high carb snack, lots of carbs, a little bit of protein. That's the 2. So 4-2. Now 1, the 1 part of the 4-2-1 rule, you want to eat 30 to 60 grams of simple, fast digesting carbohydrates. So this is the closest time to training. Our digestion window is very small. And so simple carbs, most of the digestion happens in your mouth. So you just want to get sugar immediately available into your bloodstream to use in your training. So this could look like an applesauce packet, 2 applesauce packets. You could have rice cakes with jelly. You could have a banana with honey. You could do a sports drink like a Gatorade. You want to make sure that there's sugar in the sports drink. Whatever it is, 30 to 60 grams of fast-acting carbohydrates. So the sugar is there and it's readily available and ready for you to train. And that's the framework, right? 4-2-1. 4 hours before training, have a full meal. 2 hours before training, have a high-carb snack. 1 hour before training, have fast-acting carbs that are readily available to fuel your tank. This is a game changer. This is one of the very first things that I implement in our clients' regimen, and they immediately see improvements to their performance. A lot of the times we have guys that are struggling with cardio, and all we do is implement the 4-2-1 rule, and their gas tank goes to another level before we even do any kind of heart rate based conditioning. So it's really, really powerful. A couple scenarios and a couple questions that I get asked that you might ask. So what if you train early in the morning? What if I have like a 9 a.m. or a 10 a.m. training session and I don't have enough time to follow the entire 4-2-1 rule? Do I have to wake up? Like if I'm training at 8 a.m., if I'm training at 9 a.m., do I have to have a meal at 5 a.m.? And what I tell our clients is if you have an early training session, follow the 4-2-1 rule in the allotted time that you have. So if you're training at 10 a.m. and you wake up at 7 a.m., maybe just follow the 2-1 part of that portion. If maybe you're doing a 6 a.m. lift, maybe you just wake up and get some fast acting carbs and you just follow the 1 part of the rule. You have to look at when your training session is and then be smart about which part of the 4-2-1 rule you follow. Another question that I get is what if I have multiple training sessions throughout the day? So if I have a morning and an evening training session, and what I would do with that is I would just follow the 4-2-1 rule twice. So if you have a morning session, do the part of the 4-2-1 rule that allots for time leading up to that morning session, get some recovery food in, maybe a protein shake, maybe a meal after training, and then depending on how much time you have leading up to your second session, follow the 4-2-1 rule following up to that. If you have the ability to do the full 4-2-1 rule, great. If you only have 2-1, then do 2-1 leading up to your second session. And so that's a question that I get a lot. Another question that I get a lot is what about back-to-back training sessions? What if I'm doing 2-3 sessions in a row, a lot of hours? Still follow the 4-2-1 rule leading up to it, but I highly recommend having carbs to sip on throughout your training session. This is where a sports drink like a Gatorade can be an awesome option. This is where having like go-go squeeze applesauce packets on you and just throwing down 1 or 2 applesauce packets throughout training is really important. I also like to supplement with electrolytes throughout longer training sessions. So we're putting fluids back in our body. We're putting sodium and potassium back in our body. We're putting carbohydrates and fuel and glucose back in our body. So we're burning and losing all of these really important substances throughout training. We want to make sure that we're putting them back in so we can continue to perform, and then we can recover at a really high level. But I cannot stress enough how important it is that you prioritize your pre-training nutrition. I'll leave you with a story and then we'll wrap up this episode for today. One of our pros, David Macias, before he was a Fight Science client, we're teammates. And so when I was newer to the gym, he was there for a little while. And I remember he was very closed off to any kind of new information, which is normal. Like if someone new is coming to your gym, you're going to be a little bit skeptical. And I remember there was somebody at the gym that threw up during a striking class because they ate and they ate the wrong things before training. And David talked to me. He's like, dude, that's what happens when you eat before training. David was very much in the mindset of, I'm not going to eat before training. And David was killing it. He was a dominant, undefeated amateur. And so he had a lot of proof to back up that reasoning. But the other side of that is he was burned out all the time. He was struggling with nagging injuries. He had to pull out of a title fight because of an injury that he sustained where if he was just eating the right things before training, his body would have been healthier. He would have been less injury prone, and he probably wouldn't have had to pull out of that title fight. And so then when we started working together, we introduced the 4-2-1 rule. We tightened up his nutrition. We showed him what to eat. He followed this rule before training, and it was incredible. He ended up having more energy than ever in his entire career. He put on muscle and size, and he went down a weight class. So he was fighting at 155, a smaller 155er, getting injured, still winning, but that's just how tough he was. And then we started implementing more food into his regimen. He had more energy. His walk around weight went up, but then we went down to the 145 weight class, massive 145er, less injury, more energy, and even more dominant performances. He's 4-0 as a professional, and 3 of those are finishes. And that's the power of something like the 4-2-1 rule. So if you're a fighter, if you're a hobbyist, if you're a martial artist, you're struggling with energy or you're confused about nutrition, this 4-2-1 rule is going to be a game changer for you. You can start using it right now. Look into your cabinet, look what you have, look at the foods that you have. If you're going to training today, you can start using this rule right now. And I promise you, you implement this into training right now, you are going to see massive improvements into your performance. But that's it. That's everything I got for you. Fight Science Made Simple, episode 2, short and sweet. If you dug the episode, please make sure you show it some love. Give it a like. Follow this podcast so you don't miss out on any episodes or dropping episodes every single week. And make sure that you send it to a training partner. The more fighters and martial artists that we can get this podcast into the hands of, the bigger impact we're going to be able to have on the fight space. It means you're going to be able to go further. You're going to be able to go faster. You're going to be able to do it with more enjoyment, healthier, and we're going to have a great community on the process. So please send it to a lot of fighters. If there's any episodes that you want to see, you can drop it in the comments down below. Look at that. Just about under 15 minutes. What is this? Like 14 minutes and some change. Beautiful. Keeping it short, keeping it sweet. Until next time, catch you later.